Should we get going then? I'll just start with the boring housekeeping stuff first, and who I am. So my name's Sam Hunter and I'm the Partnership and Events Manager at the Growth Hub, and I have involvement in sort of the masterclass element of the Growth Curve programme, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And then all of our other core programme events, our Peer Networks programme, so you've probably heard of some of those as well. Quick run through of how the session's going to run. So Martin will start in a moment. Martin at Cranfield, he is one of our lecturers on the Growth Curve programme and also our Peer Networks programme, and is utterly brilliant. So he's going to run through a little taster, not word for word what you would expect on the actual Growth Curve masterclass, I understand, but just sort of an idea of the sorts of things you can expect and topics you can expect to cover. And then I'll hand over to one of our high growth business advisors, Sandra, and she's going to run you through just sort of a top line of what the actual Growth Curve programme is about, who it's aimed at, eligibility and things like that, the types of support you can get other than just the masterclass that is included in the programme, fully funded programme, might I add. Ordinarily, any questions, I would say put them in the chat and we'll come to them at the end, but I think we can probably manage if you wanted to come off mute and ask them anyway. So perhaps at the end of Martin's session, if you've got any questions, you can ask them there, and then the same at the end of Sandra's as well. If you've got anything going along during the session, then yeah, don't hesitate, just put them in the chat. So without further ado, I will hand over to Martin.
So. Okay, so oops, that's the wrong start. Can you see the starter screen then? Yeah, awesome. Please, Richard and Lawrence and Neil, please butt in. Don't just let me drone on at you for half an hour or 25 minutes. So this is not the masterclass content that I would deliver, but we at Cranfield have on the Growth Curve a 4-part masterclass program. Part 1 is delivered by Joe Nellis, Professor Joe Nellis, who's a world-leading economist. So we talk about the economy and setting the economic, it gives you a bit of economic background and then sets the scene for how the economy is performing for SMEs. Masterclass 2 on the same day was with me about finance. So what I've taken here is one of my new modules that I'm working up, but I thought I'd give you a taster of it, but this is not necessarily the module. In fact, it's probably a totally different module, but it would be about finance for SMEs. That's one day. Then day 2 is marketing, led by Professor Vasilis Theoharakis, and then talking about building a high-performance team being the 4th masterclass module at the end of the day 2, which they're usually about 2 weeks apart. And accompanying that is our 10 Steps to Profitable Growth workbook. And as Lawrence has experienced and can tell Richard about, a Canvas module where you can log on and get all sorts of other data. So what I thought I'd do is give you a quick taster session. But as I'm not a professor, I thought I'd better justify my CV and don't be put off by the face. That's as heavily photoshopped as I could manage. But I'm an ex-corporate financier, so I'm a chartered accountant. I then left that life. I was head of food and beverage at Deloitte, formerly of Anderson, and I wasn't head of food and beverage just because I was fat. I think it was also because I was not bad at the job. I founded a giftware business with a business partner, which did really well. I sold that to my second tier management team, not for life-changing money, but a decent enough whack. I then qualified as a barrister for fun, but I'm not practicing, just to be clear, if anybody from the Bar Association is listening, I'm not a practicing barrister. I've then spent the rest of my life kind of divided into 3. I did some investing for an SEIS fund, which is super early stage investing in high growth businesses. Did some for myself. I'm currently 2 for 2, if you want my track record of investing, so two complete failures and 2 good successes. I'm a kind of part-time CFO, a serial non-exec director, and now a part-time lecturer at Cranfield. And like I said, I've got 2 good exits of 10x and 6x return. What we're going to look at today then is the rule of 5. So I've got this theory as a non-exec director now for about 20 businesses, and currently on the board of 3, is that there are 5 things you need to do super well in order to be competitive and beat your peers and run your business. And there's some theory behind the 5, which we'll run through. If we were doing the full hour and a half masterclass, we'd then look at CSF and KPI confusion, and we'd do some considerations, tips and tricks where I try to apply this to an SME basis so that you can understand how it would work, and we'd have a bit of kind of Q&A to go with it. I guess my question is the two of you, and if you wouldn't mind sharing, do any of you have KPIs that you monitor? And if so, how many do you have? Just before, because we've had a range, just so at the moment I'm keeping score. The range goes from 4, which I would obviously promote, all the way through to 18 on growth curve, which is the highest. So I just want to, Lawrence, how many KPIs? Do you have KPIs? Do you monitor them?
No, I don't, I'm afraid.
Cool. Well, then that's good. Richard, any KPIs? Yes, no? No?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, we're going to start with then. This is good because at least you don't have 18 and I have to persuade you to come down. You don't have any, so we can start to go up. I think there are 5 things that make a difference. And the reason there's 5 is because of this. So there's a piece of research by Blick and Rabinovich that says the human brain can deal with 7 pieces of information plus or minus 2 in your kind of short-term consciousness. Obviously, your long-term brain remembers lots of things, but then they're more about emotions and they get a bit fuzzy. And if you want to test my theory, think about how you remember a phone number. Now, I know we've kind of forgotten about doing that because in this day and age, if it's not in your mobile phone, you don't know it. But in the old days, you used to ring them out so you'd remember them. And if you think about how you remember them, and it's weird because actually recalling 7 items is 15 times more difficult than recalling 3. And recalling 10 items requires 50 times more brain power. So if you think about it, when you pin number 4, right, these are things, there's a reason behind it. So I think in that basis, if you can't remember it, it can't be critical. And if it can't be a critical success factor, you can't monitor it with a KPI. What most businesses do is have loads of KPIs, key performance indicators, missing out on the word key and missing out on the fact that you can't possibly monitor more than 5 things on a realistic basis. So from my perspective, go with 5, ideally 4 if you can break it down, but persuading most people who've got KPIs to bring it down is quite hard. But there are 5 things that are, and focus on, critical to your business, that if you do them, you're better than your competition. I like to keep it simple, and I like to keep things at the forefront of my mind. So I went to one business that wasn't doing particularly well, asked them how many KPIs they had, and they had 34. Now, I've got a semi-eidetic memory. If I write it down, I can remember it. I can't remember 34 things. It's just not possible. And I would argue there can't be 34 things that are key or critical. The point being, these are other things you might need to do them, but they don't separate you at the part. So what is a critical success factor? A bit of management stuff from John F. Rockhart, who was MIT, and it was developed out of the Harvard Business Review by D. Ronald Daniel. Critical success factors are the limited number of areas in which, if results are satisfactory, will ensure successful competitive performance for the organization. i.e., do these things better than everybody else and you win and beat you from your competition. And where do you get these critical success factors from is the first bit that comes for me. So I go back to the start. And obviously, Lawrence, you've been doing a bit of this with us on another course, but go back to your values, okay? So I like this company. So sadly, Lawrence, you're going to see it again, but hopefully Richard's never seen it. I love this company. Southwest Airlines were the first airline in 1950 to stop using the hub and spoke model that the big flag carriers had and launched into point-to-point, super cheap, in America only, the forerunner of EasyJet and Ryanair. And they have 4 values, okay? They talk about warrior spirit, servant's heart, fun-loving attitude, and wow your customers. And their overall golden thing is to do unto others what you would have do unto you. So treat your employees like they are expected to treat the customers. And it's all very well setting your values, but they must be lived values. Well, one thing you can say about Southwest Airlines, and I don't know what their numbers are during the pandemic. But prior to 2019, 2020, they'd never, ever made a loss, which for an airline is relatively rare. They'd never laid anybody off, and they've got an amazing following of people. And one of the reasons behind that, and if you search on YouTube, you can find loads of examples. I chose this young man because I think he's very funny, but they do things a bit differently, and they have that fun-loving attitude at the fore. So I'm just going to play this. I'm going to make sure that I'm sharing my sound, but I'm just going to play this now. It takes about 2 minutes, but it's well worth the wait.
Good evening, folks. Welcome aboard Southwest Airlines Flight 372, service to Oklahoma City. Those of you that have flown us before know that we do things a little bit differently here on Southwest. Some of us tell jokes, some of us sing, some of us just stand there and look beautiful. I, unfortunately, can do none of those. So here's the one thing that I do know how to do. We're going to shake things up a little bit. I need a little audience participation. Otherwise, this is not going to go over well at all. So here's what I need, especially you guys in the front, because you know what's coming. All right, I need a beat. All right. All I need you to do is stomp and clap, and I'm going to do the rest, because I've had 5 flights today, and I just cannot do the regular boring announcement again. Otherwise, I'm going to put myself to sleep. So, you guys with me? All right. So give me a stomp, clap, clap. Come on, stomp, clap, clap. Stay on beat there. There you go. Keep that going. This is Flight 372 on SWA. The flight attendants on board serving you today. Teresa in the middle, David in the back. My name is David, and I'm here to tell you that shortly after takeoff, first things first, there's soft drinks and coffee to quench your thirst. But if you want another kind of drink, then just holler. Alcoholic beverages will be $4. If a Monster Energy drink is your plan, that'll be $3, and you get the whole can. We won't take your cash, you gotta pay with plastic. If you have a coupon, then that's fantastic. We know you're ready to get to new places. Open up the bins, put away your suitcases. Carry on items, go under the seat in front of you, so none of you have things by your feet. If you have a seat on the road with the exit, we're going to talk to you, so you might as well expect it. You got to help evacuate in case we need you. If you don't want them, we're going to reseat you. Before we leave, our advice is put away your electronic devices. Fasten your seatbelt, then put your trays up. Press the button to make the seat back raise up. Sit back, relax, have a good time. It's almost time to go, so I'm done with the rhyme. Thank you for the fact that I wasn't ignored. This is Southwest Airlines. Welcome aboard.
So I'd love to see some of our English flight crews do that, because I'm not quite sure we've got the performance in us. But from my perspective, there are loads of examples of singing, acting, performing on Southwest Airlines. And if any of you have ever flown them, I got some guy who was doing an operatic performance for that countdown. And I can't stand, the one area where of life, because I'm quite a big chap, I don't like to turn right on planes. So being on a really tight, packed, kind of low cost airline was my idea of hell, but actually they're a really fun airline. So what's critical to your business? Start with your values. For them, living their values, absolutely critical, totally stands them apart, and they have people who are following them, okay? Where else do you look? Well, for me, you look at IKEA. You look at your vision and mission. So IKEA's vision and mission, I think, is pretty impressive. So Ingvar Kamprad, when he set up the business, set it up with some pretty focused view of what life was like. He's sadly now passed on a couple of years ago. But if you're the management of IKEA, this is fairly clear. So we say we're going to make a better everyday life for the many people by offering a range of well-designed, functional home furnishing products at prices so low that as many people can afford them. So the vision, what you want to ultimately become, okay, where you want to go, what the business looks like. So if your critical success factors aren't aligned with that, you've got a bit of a problem, because you're not really furthering your vision. And the mission shows where you are now and how you're going to get there. And in tandem with your values, which is like your rule book, chooses which roads you're going to go on. And so for IKEA, if you're the management team of IKEA now, reflecting Ingvar, and Kamprad was a character, so apparently he was notoriously tight-fisted. He drove his Volvos till they died. He wouldn't buy a new one, even though he's obviously a wealthy individual. And if you're now running the business, you know that if somebody brings you a product range that's high price, well, no, that doesn't fit the vision. If it's not for the masses, no, that doesn't fit the vision. If it's not well designed or if it's not flat pack, you know that it's not going to work. So it gives you a pretty clear rule book. And there's three kind of questions that come out for me. Where do you want to compete? What makes you different? And what do you need to do better than your competition? And I thought long and hard about how to show you this. So I thought I'd put my money where my mouth is. So one of my exits, my 6X exit, is from a company called System Magic. You can check them out online if you wish. I'm no longer involved. I sold out in July-ish this year, July, August this year. I can't remember exactly well. The business was turning over £500,000 when I did a BIMBO, buy-in management buyout, with the managing director of the original founder shareholder. Had 5 staff, and for the last 5 years, it had never done anything more than 500K. So that was the average turnover for the last 5 years. And all it did was supply outsourced IT services to SMEs. So anybody between 5 and 250 seats, we would be your help desk. We might supply your computers, we might look after your servers, might look after your internet. But that was it. And the business had never grown more than 500K and was pretty flat. The MD had done a good job turning it around from loss making, but couldn't get it onto the next level. So the first thing we did was we came up with 4 values. Everything was around doing it, because we're a bunch of juvenile child, because do it sounds funny, doesn't it? So, and it's also information technology, but it was something that was memorable and we thought it was funny at the time. We may have been at the pub, I'm not going to reveal that, but everything became do it. So do it differently. That was the starter for 10. So unlike all other IT firms, our do it differently was, for our IT support contracts, no year-long contracts, 30 days contracts either way. Do it with respect. We're all about treat people how you want it to be treated. So our whole thing was, if we don't want our team to be shouted at, because often people shout at IT support lines because they're not helping them. So we said, well, we're going to do it with respect internally and externally. We're going to do it with passion. We are a people-focused business. We fit the people to the IT. We fit the IT to the people, not the people to the IT. Because often the technicians, and we're going to talk about our IT in plain language, passionately. And we're going to do it together. We're one team, so we stand together. None of this stitching each other up. We're one team with our partners, and often, because we're their outsourced help, but their first point of contact for their IT, we're part of their teams too. Okay? We then said, what matters? So we built a forecast, and what we wanted to do was get to 2 million turnover in 5 years. Why? A couple of reasons. One's ego, but the other is, at 2 million, you've got a stable amount of team where we've got coverage for each other and a stable set of profits, out of which, if we lose clients, we're not scrambling. We're also investing for the future. Once we got to 2 million, the next plan was to get to 5. And we came up with these four critical success factors. Sales, right? We need to make X sales every month to increase to get to our targets. We needed not to lose sales, so we need to have a good customer performance metric, because our customers are on 30 days. If they're upset, they can leave. We needed a stable team because we haven't got enough time to waste to keep recruiting. So we needed to have low staff turnover and build our team and invest in the team. And we needed some operational things to improve, because what our customers were saying is that they couldn't always get in touch with us. So we needed some metrics to look at that. So we identified 4 key areas of the business. Now, I'm obviously keeping them super high level, and I can explain to them what you mean. But for example, on the operational front, we worked out how many calls we get. We worked out how many staff we have on average. We therefore know how many calls and tickets each staff member has to answer on average to keep our customer satisfaction. Because the other thing about these critical success factors is that they're linked. Because again, if our operational metrics are too high, our staff will burn out, get fed up and leave. If our operational metrics are too low, we're not answering our customers enough. But those are the 4 areas which are absolutely critical for us. At this point, one of your options, especially if you're growing, is consider a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, okay? So the one that I always like to talk about is Adidas. Sorry, Nike, when they said their whole mission. So 1964, Phil Knight is selling and I can never say this, on Suku Tiger, Japanese running shoes out the back of his car at athletic events. And him and his business partner and coach, Bill Bauman, by about 1970, were fed up of it. And they said, well, we're going to do our own range. And we're going to call it Nike, which is obviously the Greek goddess of victory. And we need to come up with a plan. And their plan, quite simply, their one critical success factor was crush Adidas. So everything they decided to do, their aim was to crush Adidas. Now, it's kind of hard to say they succeeded in a way, because I don't know if you know, but Adidas is still around. It's still turning over 32 billion euros, sorry. But they kind of did win as well, because Nike is obviously a 40 billion turnover business and has supplanted Adidas as the number one sportswear brand. But to go back a slide, if you're going to consider a BHAG as your Everest, your real target, so instead of having 4 like Sister Magic, which were a bit more kind of detailed, one of your options is to go for a big, hairy, audacious goal. It needs to be connected to your values and vision. It needs to be audacious. The usual rule of thumb is that it's 70% achievable. So I guess on that basis, Nike have achieved it. It needs to be clear and compelling. It can't waffle on, because it can't be a BHAG if it's not something you can say quickly. And it needs to be arduous. The whole point about a BHAG is that it's supposed to be tough, hence our young gentleman climbing a mountain. It also, though, needs to be measurable, which is why when I was doing the Sister Magic, BHAGs weren't going to work for us. We had an existing business. It was more about lead bullets than silver bullets. Okay, but it might work for you. Once you've got your critical success factors, you can think about monitoring them. So I can give you the KPI for Sister Magic sales. It was a PIN number of 332. That every month we needed to add 3 new support contracts. Roughly didn't matter what size, because averaged out overall it works. We needed to add 3 product sales that we hadn't already got, and we needed to add 2 projects to our pipeline. So projects like Wi-Fi installations, we have a speciality in boutique hotels. Wi-Fi installations, we can't control when they happen, but as long as they were adding to our pipeline, we were golden. So we can monitor that every board meeting. How's our 332? Well, we got 416 or 115. Whatever it is, we could monitor that. So a key performance indicator is a measurable value that demonstrates how if you're achieving that critical success factor. So for example, with people, we would look at staff turnover. The key here, though, and I'm sure Lawrence has heard me waffle on about this earlier today, is that you need to know your numbers at this point. Because when you're setting KPIs, if you've got rubbish in, you'll have rubbish out. So doing all of that work, aligning and understanding what's critical to your business needs to be matched up with understanding what your numbers are so that you can monitor those KPIs effectively. And so I'm almost on time, I think. Hopefully I am. So there's 2 key takeaways. At this point, I would then go on to expand about KPIs and how to select them. But there are 2 things I would like you to take away. 5, there's a reason for it. It's because you can remember it. And if you can remember it, you can do it each day. And it keeps you focused. That doesn't mean that there aren't other things that matter, but I would, in academic terms, we would call them hygiene factors. They just need to happen. They are not critical. I can give you an example. My giftware business, 40% of its turnover in any one year would be at Christmas. So you can mess up the whole of the rest of the year as long as you get Christmas right. So my 1K critical success factor in KPI was get Christmas done, get enough products into the selection for our retailers and make sure we had enough stock, and did it. Because if you mess up Christmas, there's not a lot of coming back. So 5 things that absolutely drive your business. And if you go home tonight, when you walk the dog, take a shower, have a coffee, whatever, whenever your good ideas come, mine always seem to come when I'm walking the dog. So I now carry my notebook with me if I'm not taking the phone, just to note these down. Remember what things really matter to your customers, to your business, to make you successful. And the key takeaway too, when in this area, getting involved in anything, make sure you involve your staff. There's an interesting statistic, and it's kind of backed up. There's a book by Ben Hunt Davis, and he was a rower prior to the Sydney Olympics, where Britain had spent a lot of money on rowing and hadn't really got the return. And he wrote this book, Will It Make the Boat Go Faster?, about their journey to those 8 golds they took. He says that about 29% to 30% of your people are actively engaged at any one point. About 50% of your team are passive. They're neither engaged nor disengaged. And remember, these can change over time. The really sad factor is that around 19 to 20% of your people are actively disengaged. He called them anchors, obviously linked to the boat, which is really bad to think that 70% of your workforce at any one point is either not engaged or actively disengaged, rowing in the opposite direction. One of the ways you can get them to row with you is to get them involved. Like our guy from Southwest Airlines, he clearly buys into it, right? You can't perform that rap in the way he does after 5 flights if you don't really care about what you do. So get your team involved in the creation and work with them to understand, because if they buy into it, you'll have a much better time. And promote the behaviors and the champions. And I don't mean just promote them in terms of give them a job. What I mean by that is reward them for doing the things that are in line with what you do. And as long as you align that to your values and your vision and mission, then all of these things should help your boat go in the right direction. And I think I'm 1 minute over, but hopefully that gives you a flavor of the kind of masterclass content that we've got. And the last slide from me, as ever, is, has anybody got any questions? Stunned silence.
Martin, I've got, oh, go on, somebody else was speaking.
No, you got there first, Neil. Go ahead.
Okay. Martin, just one question, really. How does that go down if you say that to business owners about reducing their number of KPIs? Because generally my experience is getting them to focus is actually quite the difficult bit.
So Neil, I guess from my perspective, not well at first.
Yeah.
But if you give them a 3-month window and you work with them to define those critical success factors and just say, this is what we're going to focus on, try it for a 3-month window, and they start to see the dial move, then it tends to go quite well. So I've just completed the exercise with one of my non-exec roles where we wrote a business plan, and we've got 4, not 5, 4. I would like to pitch you 3, but I think it's a bit too brave to go straight to 3. So it's an ever decreasing process. But I pitched them 4. We worked on writing the business plan together. Then I took the analysis and wrote it as one person and presented it back to them about what we're good at, what we're not good at, what we need to do. And in their case, it's a 4-part process of, we need marketing leads because we need to make sales. So we need X number of leads to make X number of pitches, to make X number of sales. We need to retain the staff, which is often the common thing. Staff recruitment at the moment is particularly hard. Staff retention is therefore paramount. But also, even if recruitment's not hard, stepping out of the business is time consuming to recruit for growth businesses. And in their case, the final piece was keeping hold of one particular client, which accounts for rather too much of the business at the moment. And we've seen the dial move in the last 3 months now. So I agree with you, it's a tough call. But one of the tricks I've got is, when somebody's got 7 values for the business, ask the management team to repeat the values, and they can't. They have to go and have a look outside or in the handbook, and then go out to their team and ask them to what the values are. And when they can't remember the more than 5 values, then you're onto something. So without appearing like an arse, just gently ask them if they can remember them, because if you can't remember them, how can you drive them? Now, if you wanted, the next level is that there's a thing called OKRs and things that Google and everybody use. That means you could cascade them down into the individual teams, but I don't think early stage businesses need to be so complicated. There are 5 things that everybody needs to focus on. The rest of it, you need to do well, obviously, but you don't need, these are the 5 critical things that if we get right, we win. And so it takes a bit of persuasion, but once you see the dial move, the funny thing about entrepreneurs and growth businesses, once they see the dial move, they tend to be all in, and then they suddenly start pitching it back to you as if it was their gospel and their idea, right? So then you know Sorry, Lawrence, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess these indicators are probably best in a form that you can recognize variations in them from month to month on that sort of time scale. The situation I face is that my sales are typically 9-month, 15-month projects. So I might be, and I quite often develop a relationship with a client over the course of 18 months from when I first meet them to when they actually make their first purchase. So as you carried on there, I think, yeah, should I be setting targets of making sure I present at 2 networking events per month, or something that is, if you like, feeding the funnel, and I can't base it on these very big chunky successes or failures that only come along every now and then.
So your KPIs that monitor your critical success factors need to be based on a relevant basis. So, for example, the staff turnover number at System Magic and at the agency that I'm non-exec of is based annually, because staff turnover is an annual measure. If yours is a pipeline build, what you need to work out, Lawrence, is how long your pipeline takes to convert. And therefore, if you've got a target next year of £1 million turnover, how big does your pipeline need to be based on the metrics you just outlined? And then so that's critical, is that you have a pipeline of X. Therefore, your KPI would be making sure that your pipeline is maybe at different stages, and you know what the stages are, that you've got X at each stage, and that's all that matters. Now, how you get there, that could be a marketing KPI, which is, if in order to get there, I need to do X number of events or presentations or whatever the number is. But you could have that over, if yours is a long lead time and not a transactional basis, then whatever metric, you can work it whichever way you want. It's just, what I would be looking at for you is to stay at each, I'd probably have 3 stages of pipeline, like potential, like possible introductions or people that you're warming up, through to potential clients where you've given them a proposal, through to finalize contract out. And you know how much you need at each phase, because then once the contracts are out, it takes 3 months to convert into the first bit of revenue. And then you would be able to, but you know your sales pipeline, and that's how I would monitor one of the bits. But it could be set over a year for all, as long as you're measuring it, and you can make sure. What you need to see is when your pipeline's skinny in the middle or skinny in terms of opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So you can make your metrics match whatever you want them to match. It's what's relevant. Understanding what's relevant is the key bit, because most people, most businesses just blunder along blindly. Yeah. They don't really measure. So, like I said, for the projects for System Magic, projects could land whenever. Like if you're building a hotel, the Wi-Fi goes in last, right? Or most of it goes in last. The cables might go in with the rest of it. We can't control when that's going to complete, because who the hell knows what happens to the building. So, but we knew as long as we've got X number in the pipeline. So we had 2 projects and a total pipeline value, which we then had a project's overall target for the year, and we can see how the 2 match up. Does that make sense? So
yeah, absolutely.
Set them over a year, set them over a month. Some businesses have to do it weekly. Like if you're Amazon, they have daily targets, especially Black Friday, for example.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right. Richard, have any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to hand over to Sam and Sandra again, and I'm done talking. You're on mute if you were asking, Richard. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to, that's the same as Lawrence. It's fine for me to say I'll have a KPI of doing X sales a month, but it's what will lead to those sales that's important. So thanks for that answer, because that's precisely what I was looking for. Remember, to measure 3 stages of a pipeline is exactly right for me. So, and
remember marketing as well. One of the KPIs in order to get sales could be X number of leads from marketing efforts, whatever that might be, digital marketing, in-person marketing, meetings. So, it's about pipeline, you understanding what drives. So one of the other ones that I sit on the board of, we have to get 16 leads a month in order to make 2 contracted sales. We've worked out by looking at our past data what it takes to get what our success rate is. And obviously that builds in some slack for failure, because you're not going to if we say we win 2 pitches out of 16, what if for 2 months we only get 1 out of 16? Or we only get 10 leads, but we make 5 sales, then you have to adjust, right? But it's having that understanding of where you need to put your effort. So that's why if you ever engage a non-executive director or you engage a non-exec CFO, you ever ask them what their standard board pack is and they give you one, be careful. Because if you ever ask me for that, I would tell you I don't know, because I don't know what's important to your business. Even if I know the sector backwards, because I don't know what the drivers are. You all do things differently, right? That's the whole point. Because if you're doing the same things as everybody else, you would be doing the same things as the big competitors in your space, and you wouldn't have a hope in hell of competing against them because they've got the better resources. So the very point of an SME is that you're always operating a bit differently. But thank you very much. Great. Hopefully it provided something useful. That's a taster. Remember, there are much better lecturers than me on the masterclass as well. So hopefully we'll see you on that. And I'll pass back. I'm going to pass over to, I think I'm passing over to Sandra, but I'll just check. But Sandra is the most amazing recruitment person we've ever come across. And it's a pleasure to work with her. She's probably one of the few people who can keep me in check. So over to Sandra.
Hi, I'm just going to share my screen. Just bear with you. Okay, right. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Martin, for that introduction. And Martin's doing himself an injustice. He's a very good presenter. So there. So I'm Sandra Edwards, and I'm a business advisor on the Growth Curve program. Is this going to work? Yes, there we go. Okay, so what is the Growth Curve program? It is a high growth intensive program for businesses within this who have the greatest potential of growth within the SEMLEP area. Now, these are not just any businesses. These are businesses who are seriously committed about achieving growth for themselves. They seriously are willing to learn what is needed to overcome their challenges and take positive action to achieve their goals. So the benefits you would get from joining a program such as this is that you get access to university-led masterclasses from experts such as Martin, who are, expert in their field and who have a business background. I always say, you don't know what you don't know until you come onto the Growth Curve program. You'll get access to lots of information. You get to share information. You get to discuss key issues that are important to you and how to overcome them. You also get to take all that learning and implement it into an action plan at the end of the day and take it away with you into your business and implement it. You'll also strengthen your leadership skills. You'll get to work with a one-on-one with a business advisor such as myself. With working with me, you'll get to do a 2.5-hour business diagnostic. This is a deep dive look into your business. We look at all the different areas such as marketing, finance, people, you name it. The purpose is to gain a real understanding of what is actually going on within the business so that you can identify the key areas of concern for you so that you can focus on these and treat this as a priority and work to overcome them and improve them. You also get access to finance on this program. We have revenue and capital grants available, which we discuss at the end of the masterclass. Now, in terms of eligibility, you have to be based within the Southeast Midlands, and you need to be experiencing high growth or projecting high growth in the next 2 to 3 years. You need to have a minimum of 3 full-time employees and have an annual turnover of at least 200K with a forecast annual growth of at least 20%. Now, what is it you need to do to join? Firstly, you need to book an introductory call with a business advisor such as myself. When we have this call, we basically will have a chat about your business and looking at what you want to do in terms of growth, what are your key challenges is. We'll also go through the eligibility criteria. All being well, and you're happy to proceed, we then give you an enrollment form to complete. We'll book your business diagnostic in, and the onboarding team will then contact you later down the line near the masterclass to give you access. All the masterclasses at the moment are online. They may go to face-to-face later on, but at the moment, due to the current climate, we are sticking to online. And then on completion of your masterclass, you have the option to apply for one of the grants if you so choose. Now, as well as when you finish, you'll also still get access to business advisor support. And this is basically because when you go away from the program, you will have an action plan to take away with you. You can go away and you can deal with that by yourself, or if you feel that you need extra support with that, well, myself as a business advisor can be there to help you with that. Or even if you just want to connect from an accountability buddy perspective, that too is also fine. Now, for those of you who actually, want to go on to something else, you're hungry for some more learning after going on the Growth Curve program, we do have other services such as our mentoring program, which is the next stage on from Growth Curve. And that we could discuss after the session if you were interested. Now, those businesses who have been on the Growth Curve program have got a lot of benefits from it. I haven't met a business who hasn't got anything from it. And here are 4 businesses who have given positive feedback to their experience on the program. Alicia Martiello from bidwriting.com said, "Thank you for your business advice. It has proved to be extremely informative and insightful. You have helped to establish a good solid foundation upon which I can launch my business. Your help has enabled me to focus on the right areas and achieve a much needed clarifier thought." Now, Mick McNamara from Emerald House said, "It has made us think differently and understand how important business planning is." Whilst Paul Kirkup from Damn Good Limited commented, "The masterclasses had provided guidance for strategy planning and ensuring that we take time out of the day-to-day running of the business." Finally, Jennifer Murray from Life Science Group said, "This has given me ideas on how to successfully hand over aspects of the business to other team members and to give them the confidence they need to succeed." Now, you going on the Growth Curve program will also benefit. You'll also find things you'll get from it that will help your business going forward. That is for certain. Now, if you're interested in joining the masterclass, the next session is in January 2022. It runs across 2 days and starts on the 12th of January from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock. The first session is on economy and finance. The second session on the 26th of January is covering marketing and people. Now, if you're interested on how you can join or simply want more information, my details here, you can email me, and you can also email my colleague, Alvera Parra, who's also a high growth business advisor on the program. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you for listening. And do you have any questions? Stunned silence.
Stunned into silence. Thank you, Sandra.
Yes. Okay. All right. Pass over to you, Sam, if there's no further questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that hopefully just gives you a bit of a taster. That hopefully gives you a bit of a taster of what you can expect on the Growth Curve program. Obviously, you've met now one of the facilitators on the program. Both our high growth business advisors are here this afternoon, so I'll put their contact details in my follow-up email to you. We have recorded the session, so if you want to watch it back for any of those useful tips and tricks that Martin was giving you, you can do, and that'll be available later this week. I'll send that out. But yeah, if you haven't got any more questions at the moment, then I'll close it off for the afternoon. But thank you for coming.